Greg Gill. We have put half of the 2017 Pirelli World Challenge season to bed at Sonoma. We're here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, getting ready to farewell the touring car portion of the season. Interesting strategy. Tell me about decision to split the season finales. And, well, I mean, granted, we're under beautiful skies here, so I'm liking the decision. Tell me about how you came to it.
So I think it was a twofold area, much of it driven just by the necessities of how can we get all of the amount of racing that we needed to get done, and we couldn't do it at Sonoma. And I think that was really the biggest one, was trying to give a fair time. And on the same token, here we had the opportunity to do the inaugural 8-hour race, and you wanted to make sure what could you benchmark that with or marry it to that would not take away from the 8-hour, but also make sure that the 8-hour was a proper halo. Wow, touring car finale to a year that has seen such amazing growth in the touring car series. So that's what drove it.
The other fun part is what I'm personally calling Petit Blanc Pain, the 8 hours of California that Pirelli World Challenge SRO organization are putting together here. That's an interesting thing. That's the longest professional race anyone can think of that's been here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. So it's not just saying goodbye to the TC classes, setting champions there and whatnot. There's also this really cool endurance aspect. Tell me about that. I know you're a big fan of what's happening here. How did you come up with it, and has it turned out so far the way you thought it would?
Well, when you do an inaugural race, and I think anyone who follows the series closely knows that we had looked originally at doing the first SRO Intercontinental GT Challenge 2016 at COTA. Early registrations did not support it, and so they held off. When we came here, I think there was some real fan concern and industry concern. Well, they held it off once before, will they do it again? No, they didn't. And there was a lot more effort, and the global platform was so much more accepted. Now we've seen, as an example, for the inaugural year here, we have about the same number of cars that they had the first year at Bathurst. And I think that when we look at it that way, we know then this is going to be a hit, and our customers have been so pleased with it. We've seen a good, I think the part that made me the happiest was that blend of international teams coming and the existing teams here, either working with a new set of drivers, but getting the spirit of the Intercontinental GT Challenge is to allow a global platform of racing, and at the same time recognize the internal in each continent where the races are being held, recognize that this is the best of the best representing that brand. So that's, I think, what really makes this a real home run.
So of all the positives that we have finishing up 2017, there's one sad part for those that have loved the ground-pounding versions of Cadillac's World Challenge efforts to the turbocharged efforts. Hard to position it any other way as a big loss, knowing how popular the Cadillac team has been. Tell me about going into 2018, Greg, knowing that there's going to be a void in terms of fan favorite, but also commercial activation. I'm sure you and your team are going to be working hard to hopefully identify the next Cadillac, possibly.
Well, I don't think you're ever going to replace an iconic brand like Cadillac. And as they've noted, and we have too, it doesn't change General Motors and our relationship. It's a positive relationship. Racing programs come and go. They change. Many times they go. It's rare that, as they pointed out, that you have 330 races from one brand. I mean, that's been legendary. We're very, very thankful for that. And the same token, they also started working with us as they saw that the series was focusing more and more on customer-based racing, that was going to be flying in the direct face of how the Cadillac brand was working and how they approach things. What are we going to do? So over 2 years ago, we started talking about what that meant. What was that going to look like? And would that mean that we would just be giving a pass to one manufacturer, or would we be holding that same manufacturer to the same GT3 customer car standards that the rest of the world has to race to? So as we came to that, they realized even going into 2018, it really wasn't in their best interest, and they were doing their DPI programs and doing other areas where their attention was going. So it was very much a disappointment, without a doubt, for all the reasons you mentioned, fan favorite, commercial activations, etc., but also something that we certainly agreed was in the best interest of the series and also for the brand, because we're not going to change our support of General Motors. They in turn have said, look, here we're going to come in, and it's, again, no secret this weekend, Reeves Callaway is wandering around. They're talking about the Callaway GT3 Corvette coming into the series next year. Almost had one on the grid this weekend. So I think it's it's not a not a goodbye at all. It's a change, and I think it's a good change. I think it's good for their brand. It's good for ours as well, because our focus is on customer-based racing, and there is a place for factory-based racing efforts, and this is not that effort here. So we got that opportunity. I have thanked them repeatedly, and yet on the same token, I'm really excited because we've already seen more manufacturers who are more focused on customer-based programs say, well, without that 800-pound gorilla in the paddock, I can actually encourage my customers to come in and race with you, and now the XYZ brand is coming to the series. And since we already kind of led the world in number of marks racing with us, I feel like that's a good thing. So again, it's a bittersweet situation that you can't help but miss this amazing contribution, and the modern era of Pirelli World Challenge would not have happened without Cadillac brand. That being said, it's a necessary transition. It's a good transition. We maintain really positive relationships with them and have nothing but the highest praise for that brand. And I'm not going to say that I think it's definitely a case of Auf Wiedersehen more than goodbye.
Last question for you. This isn't a metric you can really measure in terms of how many behinds are going to be in the grandstands and such. But I can tell you that at least for a feeling, the energy here, the momentum of putting the wraps on the 2017 World Challenge season and adding this cool 8-hour race as well, feels to me like you are farewelling this season on a genuine high like I haven't seen before, or at least seen in a decade plus in Pirelli World Challenge. Am I crazy in just feeling that myself? Are you feeling that, hearing that from your constituents in the paddock?
Yes, we are. And I think I didn't really close back out on your other question either, is that when we look at this and the significance of doing 8 hours at Laguna, the highest event, we really evaluated how the races were being done globally. When we sat down with Stefan Mattel, and I'm sure you're going to have an opportunity to talk with him again this weekend, Stefan looked at, okay, we have 24 hours at Spa, we have 12 hours at Bathurst. It made sense then to have this amount of time and also make something significant. So when you have arguably one of the most iconic racetracks in North America, and now we also have what is an iconic amount of racing on that, or maybe legendary amount of racing on that track, we maximized it out. And I think that's what's helped that paddock feeling of, yes, it's been a great year for the Pirelli World Challenge this year, but a lot of people have asked, well, what does the SRO partnership mean to the Pirelli World Challenge? This would be a very good example of that partnership. We are not in the endurance racing business. That's not what we do. We're a sprint race series. That's going to be continue where we're at. But we also recognize by partnering with the SRO, what do they do well? Well, they do endurance racing extremely well. They wanted to do that. They want to be mindful of the climate. There's already our friends at IMSA that do endurance racing in this country. We have no interest in being in that business any more than the SRO does here. So we're going to do one marquee event. We're doing this freshman event to the best of our ability, but this is just the beginning. And we intend to do bigger and better. And we saw last year, and Marshall, I believe you saw it too, Sprint X had been a real question mark in people's minds, and then at Laguna last year was, oh, okay, this might have legs. Let's see if these guys can do it again. That was really the driving force behind, is that we've seen this and we thought, let's do it again. Let's get that same feeling where we're at the end of the season, let people look at something, and I think the 8 hour is maybe an answer to a question that wasn't asked yet. And it shows you can have a great series, concentrate on sprint, and then maybe once a year do an intercontinental race that has global significance and some, maybe, lack of a better term, global sexiness. And that's what we're excited about.